So the RAW advantage. A RAW file is a complete record of the data captured by the digital sensor. This detailed implementation of RAW files obviously varies from camera manufacturer to camera manufacturer. But what's important to understand is that a RAW file represents a large number of potential images rather than a specific rendering of the digital bits that have been captured. That's what's so powerful about shooting in RAW if you don't already. Most reasonably sophisticated digital cameras can save their captures as RAW files, although you may have to change the default settings to make this happen. Cameras can also capture images as JPEG files. Remember, a JPEG file is a single version of a raw capture, as interpreted by the camera, that can be used without any further work. You can usually set up your camera to save both JPEG and RAW versions of capture at the same time. Generally, I recommend not doing this unless you have a very specific reason for it. So the advantages of a JPEG format are that JPEG files are compact and they don't take up as much space, and you don't have to do any further work on the files, and they're usable on pretty much any computer, ready for upload on the internet immediately. However, if you're interested in creative photography, the ultimate manipulation of your file to make it the way you visualize it, RAW files give you many advantages. You can use your own ideas of how the image data should be interpreted. Furthermore, if you've chosen to make RAW captures, you can process different portions of your photo differently. The exposure and color values do not have to be the same across the entire image. And last but not least, you're not throwing away much of the data collected by the sensor, as the JPEG capture inherently does. So fundamentally, the creative advantage to a RAW capture as opposed to a JPEG capture is that you get to implement your creative idea of what the photo should look like and not be forced to rely on your camera's brain to make your final image. So black and white in Adobe Camera Raw. One of the easiest ways to gain much of the power of RAW without having to go to a great deal of trouble is to use the Adobe Camera Raw, or ACR, grayscale conversion feature. Currently, you can either choose the black and white button at the top, or you can choose the profile of monochrome. They're both the same thing. So remember, the Adobe Camera Raw engine is the exact same engine that powers Lightroom. They're literally the same engine in two different cars. And this is from Adobe. So they each just have a slightly different interface. Now with the update of the new Adobe Camera Raw, it's very similar to Lightroom now as far as the orientation of the sliders, etc. But the exact same adjustment controls are there. So you can use whichever one you like best. If you're interested in Lightroom, definitely read the black and white in Lightroom Classic, grayscale conversion using presets, and black and white mix. If you don't have an interest in Lightroom, perfectly fine. You can do everything that is covered in those sections. If you're reading those sections, you can do all of this in Adobe Camera Raw. So in credits for this video, I want you to be connected. The author is always Harold Davis. I've used some of my own thoughts and words in this video, but some words, the good ones, come directly from, in full or part, the book Creative Black and White Digital Photography Tips and Techniques, the second edition written by Harold Davis. Specifically, I use parts from sections titled The Raw Advantage, Black and White in Adobe Camera Raw, Black and White in Lightroom Classic, Grayscale Conversion using presets, and Black and White Mix.